Hello, James.
Hello, Doris. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me
Good.
this morning.
And thank you for being a part of our show. Speaking of which, let's talk about this three-night documentary event, Abraham Lincoln. Tell us, what can we expect?
Well, I think what you'll be able to see is the making of a leader, so that it starts when he's simply Abe and has to go through all the difficulties he does as a child. You see him at the beginning when he's 9 and his mother has died, when he first runs for office and when he doesn't succeed, when he finally then develops himself into a state legislator. You see him growing and understanding, learning, educating himself, so that by the time he becomes President Lincoln, not just Abe, you feel, hopefully, connected to him. You want to be part of his struggle. You want him to succeed. And then you watch all the pressures that he's under during the Civil War and how he moves toward emancipation, not just restoring the Union. So it's a big, sweeping story, but there's this context of the historians providing the context and then the actors providing scenes where you actually are going to be watching him talking and thinking and moving around with everybody else, with Frederick Douglass, with Mary Lincoln, so that it's a pretty extraordinary, multi-dimensional experience, I'd like to think.
Doris, now you're a Pulitzer Prize winner from 1995 for No Ordinary Time. What is your passion about presidents? Where does this come from?
Well, I always have loved history. I think it started when my father taught me how to keep score while listening to the Brooklyn Dodgers while he was at work, so I could record for him the history of that afternoon's Brooklyn Dodger game. But history became attached to the presidency really because when I was 24 years old, I was selected as a White House Fellow and went down to work for Lyndon Johnson and then helped him on his memoirs and went to the ranch after that. So that was my first president. My first book was about him. And then suddenly your next book is about the Kennedys, and then it's about Franklin Roosevelt, and then it's Teddy, and you become a presidential historian. Not that I set out for that. I just set out loving history, and now it's become presidents that once you've learned about one, you feel maybe that'll help you learn about another. And it's not only really about presidents, it's about the groups of people that provide for him, the citizen engagement that help them to become who they are. So it's really history as a whole, not simply top down from the presidents.
Now, you mentioned learn. So my question to you is this: what do you want viewers, or what do you expect viewers to learn about Abraham Lincoln?
You know, I think what you want viewers to learn about Lincoln, as about American history as a whole, is that there are times when you wish that the characters in the past had the kind of feelings that you have today about certain issues, but you understand that they had to deal with the context they were living in, that they had to understand public sentiment. And that's what's interesting about the dynamic in this miniseries between Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist leader, and Abraham Lincoln, who's leading the country. Douglass understood that Lincoln had to deal with public sentiment, unlike him. So he said if you judged him by abolitionist standards, he might seem cold and indifferent. But if you judge him by the standards of somebody who had to educate the country and move it along toward emancipation, he might have been slower than you wished to get there, but then he was resolute and determined. So I think seeing that combination of people on the outside who are wanting the country to go faster than maybe the people on the inside can make it, finally the people on the inside are able to make that partnership. And I think that'll be a good thing for people to see just in this time when we're so questioning our history and our past and what it means and what value it has. It surely has history to look back in the past.
So one of the last questions I want to ask you, Doris, is are you looking forward to any thoughts on what has transpired over the last 12 to 16 years as far as our president and country is concerned?
Well, you know, I think what you'll see here is that democracy was in peril in this period of time, and we feel like democracy is in peril today. But what does that really mean? It means that you have to look back to the past and see, how did the people get through a difficult time before? You know, we know that the war ended with slavery undone and with the Union restored. They didn't know that at the time. They made decisions that led to that war. Everything got deeper and deeper. We still have a chance now, I think, to write the chapter of our own history. And maybe looking back at a time that ended in such a difficult way with a civil war, we can prevent it from happening today by thinking about how can we come together, how can we reduce this polarization, how can we begin to feel a sense of a common purpose in the country again, which is what eventually emerged after the Civil War, but a terrible price to pay.
Wow, I like that. I really do. Doris Kearns Goodwin, thank you so much for joining us on Morning Blend. Looking forward to the History Channel's Abraham Lincoln 3-night documentary event.
Thank you.